Hi, this is Mark with Museum of Us, and I want to explain a little bit more about the first chapter, the going from my museum of me to our museum of us. Just 3 points. One is that everything that I own, all the things around you and me, that's my stuff. This is a picture I took in Cuba, and I love it. It's a fun memory of the experience. It's something that I got to do, and I'd always wanted to go to Cuba, and I got this cool picture of the statue of Martí, the really important leader who created Cuban independence and etc. But the point I want to make is that when I pass away, if I just leave nothing explaining about this picture, then it stays in what I call my museum of me. So think about it for your stuff. Everything that you own, it's stuff that you own that's in your museum, your circle, your possessions. But part of the point of the book is to think about how do we get it from a my museum of me to an our museum of us, period. So here's the second point. Through a process, what I call digital storytelling, it's not my idea. Many people have written about it. I'm going to suggest that you work with your family and friends to record stories about things that you have so that they can know what it is and what you value about it, and what's the value to the family as well, not only to you as an individual, but to the family. And so more about that later. But for now, the point I want to make is that we go from my museum of me to our museum of us through a process that I like to call curation, which is a fancy museum term and a good one. So here's the third point, is if you notice, we have what I call hills of enough. And I want to acknowledge, I really got that idea from this book here, Your Money or Your Life. The reference is in the back of the book, or the back of the chapter. This I think, in a lot of ways, is where I got started with this whole idea of what do we do with all of our stuff? And they very succinctly put a graph that over time we accumulate more stuff. And it seems to them that over time we accumulate more and more stuff until we get to a point where there's like a peak in the curve, and they call that enough. Well, I kind of borrowed the idea and just said it's a hills of enough, and that what we tend to do over our lives is accumulate hills of enough, and we get to a point where it's like that t-shirt, hill what hill? We don't know that we've got so much stuff. So I've got chapters in the book about decluttering, minimalism, and etc., but not here. I just want to make the point, what are you doing? What am I doing with my hills of enough? How do I properly curate them is sort of the point of this book. How do I declutter? How do I distribute them? How do I let go of things that I'm just not using, whether it's photos or music or clothing and etc. And we'll talk about that later. But for now, this chapter is really about thinking about what do you do with all the stuff. And in some cases, it goes really well for families because they work together. They do, I think, things like this, and they distribute things in a nice way. The other things that happen, and we've had some of that in our family years and years and years ago, is when we don't agree, what do we do? And it's not pretty. And I've heard, of all the people that I've interviewed, I've heard both sides of that. So for now, this chapter is about simply saying that if you have things in your My Museum of Me, and you're ready to curate it and translate it into an Our Museum of Us, because that it's known to all your family and friends and it's digital, then that's what I recommend for this chapter and the next step. Make that transition from a me to an us.